Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to What's Your Decision, the custom chess position that I have created. And I'm going to be again going over some more theory in this position, some more lines that I've found out. So we've had an introduction video, we've had a few videos on the move 1 f4, we've had a video on the move 1 e4, and we've had two videos on the move 1 e3. So I suggest that if you haven't watched those videos, you probably should watch them before this one, as this is a continuation of 1 e3, so it's the third part on this move 1 e3. So in the previous two videos, we looked at the main line with the response 1 c5, which looks to bring pawns to the center and try to control this e4 square in order to protect the c3 pawn, and so that white's queen and bishop cannot get out. But in this video, we're going to be looking over this move 1 b5. So the move 1 b5 is a very interesting move. And the plan is that, so while white is trying to bring like the bishop to e2, bring the rook to d1 and rook to d3 in order to take on c3, and the main line playing c5 and d5 is to like kind of defend against that. But this b5 move is sort of a counterattack. So what black wants to do is black wants to play knight b6 and actually even knight d5 and then take on f6. And if white tries to play e4 to protect against knight going to d5, then black's going to play either d6 or d5, probably d6. So d6 and then bring the knight back to d7 and try to take on f6. So and this move directly counters the fact that when white plays e3, white is not like controlling the center as much, and white is not like bringing a pawn up to defend on f6. So this move is a counterattack of that. So the move here is f4. So the main move here is f4, knight b6, and now white plays e4 to prevent against the knight coming to d5. And f4 is a very important move because you want to bring the bishop to g4 eventually, because black's going to try to play like d6 and knight d7. So if we have a bishop on g4, then we can like take the knight on d7. So that's why f4 is played early. And now it's worth noting that after the move 3 e4, right? So white has moved this e pawn twice. So white started with e3, and then a couple of moves later they played e4. So this is kind of an important thing to note, because in the next video, the next video is going to be on this move 1 g4. And after 1 g4, there's like one of the main variations is with d5. And so actually variations can transpose from this 1 e3 b5 variation, because like g4 is like black playing b5, and if in this position where white plays g4 and black plays d5, imagine like d6 d5 would be two moves, but just d5 is one move. So technically we've transposed. And so all the lines we're going to be looking at with g4 in the next video, because there's a lot of them, they can also be played with this 1 e3 variation, with b5 at least. So yeah, so e4 is played. So technically, like, the lines actually overlap, just with separate colors. But the variations I've shown in the g4 variation, where white plays g4 instead of black playing b5, it goes more in depth, because in that position, obviously, because white has the first move, white is trying to prove an advantage. And so white is going to, in those variations with g4, white is trying to like aggressively attack the c3 pawn and try to prove that g4 is a good opening move. But however, when black plays b5 after white plays e3, black is not trying to prove an advantage, because obviously black has the second move. So so like if black is slightly worse in the opening, that's completely fine, because that's just the nature of standard chess, where because black moves second, black's going to be trying to play catch up in the beginning. So that's sort of overview. So after e4, we have and just saying like, so the only other move to prevent the knight from going to d5 would be bishop f3, which you can see wouldn't look like a good move because it's trapping in white's pieces. And after d6, black's going to play knight d7 anyway. So one of the top moves over here is just white to play bishop g4. So bishop f3 is not a good move. So here d6 is played, and actually d6 is really interesting because it's like black is using white's own it's like oh, we disconnect. Okay, I think we're back. So what I was saying was that I was saying that actually this d6 move is really interesting because like if you remember white's strategy to play like e3 and use like that pawn as a wedge against the d4 square, when black plays d6, black is essentially trying to do the exact same thing, which is really interesting. Like they're trying to create a wedge against this e5 square. So after d6, bishop g4 is played over here to like guard against knight going to d7. In this variation, knight e6 is the main move, but black can also play bishop d7, trying to like clear it. So if white takes, then black takes, and black's gonna try to sacrifice over here on f6. So after bishop d7, we have f3 as the main move. Bishop takes, f takes g4. So we're just, and it's really important to play like f3 and then f takes instead of h takes, because now we want to play, it opens up our rook to go to f3 and take on c3. So white's own plans are coming in. So after c5, we have but it's worth noting over here that if we have if we were to play rook f3 right now, we have see if knight d7 over here works. No, it doesn't. So actually, let's see, rook f3 could be a move over here. Rook f3. Rook e8. Yeah, actually over here I've seen so we can have knight e6 maybe, and rook takes c3. Actually, yeah, with this e3 variation, there are lots of lines, so it's interesting to look into. But I do believe over here rook f3 would be really good. So maybe after f3, instead of bishop takes g4, then black might end up having to play something else. Yeah, it's an interesting move. If I look over here, anything that black can do to avoid rook takes c3 ideas, it doesn't look like the computer is finding any move. Yeah, this could just be rook f3 might just be winning for white over here. So that's an interesting move that I just saw right now. I mean, I knew why I played f takes g4, but for some reason I have knight d3 in the notes, knight d7, e5, rook e8, and rook c e1, which is a solid way to play. But after just rook f3, white is probably winning over here. But yeah, if I need an update, I will come back to this in another video. And so if that's winning, no problem, because bishop d7 was the second line for black. Knight e6 was the first line. So f3 is played, and now an important move is c5, because if knight d7 trying to attack f6, then we just have I would think also we have bishop d4 ideas eventually, but this knight over here on e6 prevents against that for now. But if knight d7, e5, d takes e5, and then we don't take back, we go knight d3, and if black takes on f6, bishop takes e6. So actually, well, black's going to free their pieces anyway, so white sacrifices the bishop for the knight. which would also help free black's pieces, but doesn't matter because they already sacrificed this knight. And then, oh, this is really interesting. Then bishop c5 over here. And this rook is under attack, but like also this b4 pawn is going to be one, and then after that, white's going to be able to take on c3, and white should just be completely winning in this position. So yeah, in this position, black can't directly just right away go for taking on f6. They have to play c5 instead, which blocks against bishop takes, like the bishop c5 ideas in the line I just showed, as well as any bishop d4 ideas potentially, because like white could maybe in some lines take on e6 and then play bishop d4, but now those plans are stopped. Now we have knight f2 for white and knight d7 for black. However, even after knight d7 here, the variation is not looking very promising for black. So for example, we have e5 and there's some errors. So if like that black can make, if black takes on e5, then knight e4 protects against, also attacks c3, and white is just winning over here because white's going to be able to take on c3. So if d5, so black's playing that to prevent white's knight from going into e4. We have knight f to d3. After d4 to block and protect c3, rook d1 is played, and in this position, white has better pieces. Like black's d7 knight is going to be kind of weak. Like is not real well placed. This bishop's going to take a few moves to get out. White's dark squared bishop is already has squares. This rook for black on f8 is completely blocked. So although neither side has like broken through, I would prefer to play white over here. But instead of knight d7 over here, the best move in this line, according to the engine, is c4, which is a very interesting move because after knight d1, we're basically allowing white to take on c3 and free their queen and bishop over here. So, but we're going to see that black's going to use their pawns to create some good chances. So we have c5 played, so black is just pushing all their pawns forward. White continues and takes on c3, happy to free their pieces. B takes, queen takes c3, b4 is played. This pawn over here on c4 is protected by the knights. The queen can take. The queen drops to e3, and c3 is played, which traps in white's bishop again. And in this position, what happens is the computer shows black is better. I think both sides have chances. And over here, I'm going to do some counting of material, like I've done in previous videos. So we're not going to count. Because a white's bishop is trapped in, for now, we're not going to count these black pawns either. But obviously, they could get into play because black can push them and free this bishop. But for now, that would be hard. So all these pieces I'm highlighting in red, we're not going to count as material for right now. So yeah, and also these two pieces. So now counting this material, we have for white 9, 14, 19, 22, 25, 28. And for black, we have 5, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22. So we can see from this material count that white is up a lot of material. If we look at the position, we kind of see that, well, white can't really break through in any sort of way over here, at least not immediately, because black's pawns are preventing any sort of breakthrough. So in this position, white's probably going to eventually get e5 in, but we still have to watch out for black dropping a knight back. Black also has bishop c7, bishop d8 ideas. White's bishop over here is kind of trapped. White maybe might play f5 at some point, maybe. But the position is kind of a little bit trapped in. So it would be kind of hard for white to like use the advantage that they have. But in this position, I would think that black is on the defensive, opposed to white, due to, as we saw in the material count, white is kind of up material at this point. So that's kind of how the game can be played from here. And I would say that that this is kind of probably black's best opportunity in this line so far. So if we go back, yeah, just playing 6 c4 and not worrying about knight d7 at this point. Though, of course, in this position, when I had, so d6 was kind of a move where black was going to eventually try to like take on f6 by preventing this e5 move for white. But if black plays a move like d5 instead, let's see, Peter likes bishop g4. But if just knight e6, then f3, c5 is needed, and then bishop takes 6, f takes e6, bishop takes c5. If the rook moves, probably like, oh yeah, the knight has to move back, because if bishop takes, then the king is going to go to b6, and because this knight is going to come in as well. So so actually, after here we have bishop d7. Maybe black can try that instead. F3, the bishop again is going to try to get in. Yeah, so actually d5 over here is not an option for black. d6 is going to be played over here. And we're going to have c4 takes and c3. So yeah, this one was a shorter video than the other videos, but just a quick recap. So after e3, black has this move b5. They can try to have a counterattack over white. So what white's plan is to kind of now finally strike in the center. Black tries to sacrifice themselves, and we saw several lines, but we concluded the best line for black was to try to use their pawns to block white and concede the fact that white's going to get the sacrifice off, and c3 is played. And so that concludes the theory on the move e3. In the next video, I'm going to be going over g4 theory. So white's going to start the game with g4, and that'll be the last like theory video for this custom position. However, there's some new developments to theory that are always being found in my games, and I have tournament games to recap where new ideas were shown. But so once I finish that, I can get to those games which are quite interesting. And so yeah, that's for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.